Looks like we've got to go here in the IRC channel, so we should be starting up here pretty quickly on your screens. Can you give me a time to sync up to, sir? Okay, thank you very much. So, starting right off the bat, they have both got a wood sword out of the start cave, which is always nice to see. It does seem that we have at least got shuffled caves otherwise, as we haven't seen anything in its normal spot other than the sword. Both taking the same path, checking over at level 3 to determine whether or not this may or may not be mixed quest. It being level 3 in and of itself means that we either have a first quest or a mixed quest map, so that is pretty important for these racers to note. Also have shuffled Armos, as Fred gets a nice little bot there. Hit me, Gomo, one more time. So again, both these players making their way the same direction. Looks like we're going to have AA cut over towards the desert cave, and Fred going to make the same move. So following the same path, just moments behind each other. Unfortunately, running in just to a medicine cave, but all the fivers for Fred. 3 drops on the screen from the blue Tektites. Perhaps do not have shuffled drop groups in this particular seed. It is also of note that, as Chet has pointed out, everything has been 0 HP thus far, so pretty prevalent, perhaps, that particular flag has been ticked. And again, Fred just on the heels here of Ampharos, as they are following the exact same path. Unfortunately, Ampharos does take a death from the Tektites up here on the Lost Hills portion of the map, which those guys can be extremely deadly if you have to navigate those screens with low amounts of hearts. Fred finding the large secret, and it only being 61 rupees. Not what you want to see, obviously, if you want to buy things on the overworld, but with this being at least first or mixed quest, it will guarantee that there will be at least 3 of those available. Also, Fred finding the first take in on the map and grabs the heart appropriately, seeing as how we do not have extra candles available this particular seed.
Sorry I'm not commenting more. I seem to be having a lot of technical difficulties on my end. The streams keep freezing up. They've been like closing out on occasion. Going to try to get it fixed.
So Fred finding himself a dungeon here. I'm not quite sure where he was. I missed that, but it does perhaps bode like it's level 5, based off the color scheme and maybe some of the rooms here, but definitely have shuffled start screens, which makes it a little bit more difficult to tell, and mayhaps have shapes as well. This could possibly be level 7 too, depending on the color scheme and some other things. So we'll see if Fred gives us any indicators of what this might be. Yeah, and from the look of what he had on the map, this definitely could be vanilla level 7. Jury's still out whether or not we have shapes, but for the time being, it kind of looks like that could have been vanilla level 7. And both players, I'm sure, searching desperately for that candle shop. Always a little bit frustrating when you don't have free candles available and you have got to find that candle shop, which could very well be the rare shop, with the shops being shuffled as they are. So it could be buried high up on Death Mountain, or under Recorder Lake somewhere if the recorder's available elsewhere. So definitely one of those things you're looking for. Over on Fred's side, we do see that the level 2 lake is in fact there, which means that we do have a mixed overworld this time around, as well as the power bracelet being over where the normal 10 secret is in the wood or the forest. So mixed overworld, definitely not one of those things as a racer that you really want to see, just because it's super frustrating when you can't find a recorder and a candle. Fortunately, the power bracelet's pretty easy to find, but you spend a lot of time backtracking to screens if you don't have those items that unlock the overworld early, and it can sometimes cost you a race just because you've not found that item sooner and have to make your way back to places many times. Also seems that we've got shuffled any roads, which is pretty cool. That actually means that there is the opportunity for 7 locations on the map to contain something important, since the any roads will not contain 4 of those as far as the power bracelet is concerned. So we've got the normal 4 any road locations, the second quest master sword, or magic sword rather, the second quest letter, and the second quest level 5 locations, or level 4 locations, all available for something to be under. Meanwhile, AA is in what I believe is to be level 7, digging around just a little bit to see what we've got going on, and unfortunately not making too much progress. Could possibly be key blocked in a place or a ladder blocked. The bombs are not working out too much for him, unfortunately. Does finally find the proper bomb hole and is making a little bit more progress. After seeing this room, I'm gonna put my bet 95% on this is actually vanilla level 7 without a palette swap, and he is going to be spending some time in here. 33 rooms in this particular dungeon. Non-shapes, level 7 is the dungeon you generally do not want to dig or deal with, but this is what Ampharos has found early, and he's gonna take it all the way home as far as he can, I believe. And meanwhile, over on the other side, looks like level 8 for Fred, and bosses may not be shuffled either, seeing as how that is the normal room for that manhandler to be in, the desert room there. So bosses may be normalized as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think you're gonna have to call in the backup. I'm just having too much trouble getting these streams to work right.
Yeah, unfortunately, Cyberchow having some technical difficulties. I believe we're going to get the Greenleaf effect in here to sub in for commentary. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, sir?
Not too bad so far. Looks like we've got vanilla dungeons available for us this time around on a Mixed Quest Overworld.
Nothing wrong with that. Mixed Quest overall does make things a little bit more interesting, especially considering Fred already has the power bracelet. Although the way things tend to go in these power bracelets, not going to be needed. It's the recorder we're going to be needing. And ooh, Magic Key in 8. We could have a non-shuffled item drops in dungeons. If that's the case, then things just became a whole lot more interesting.
Yeah, that's a pretty rare flag to have checked off too, and it's one of those things that puts you in super go mode right away. Is really the only thing that you need to get your hands on is going to be that ladder, and the any key is always nice as well. But you know where the bow is going to be, you know where the ladder is going to be, and outside of those two things, and possibly the recorder, there's not much that you need out of these dungeons.
Yeah, so if that confirms it, then bow being in 1, grab that and go. We know silvers and red ring are going to be guaranteed to be in 9 at that point if the items aren't shuffled. Ladder 4, recorder 5, good to go.
Yeah, it can make for a very, very quick seed for sure. And seeing these two rooms with the bosses in it, I think confirms that we do not have a boss room shuffle, and it looks like we've also got enemies in their possibly in their normal rooms, as this is, while the room has been shuffled around, the room that these blue dark nuts actually tend to be in. So maybe a very vanilla-esque seed outside of the overworld.
Yeah, very much so. And the big thing here is if Fred finds the book here in level 8, that's probably going to throw off a red flag in his mind saying, hey, wait a second, I saw 2 items that are supposed to be here. That could be a thing. So definitely keep an eye on that. Right now, with only seeing 1 item, technically we've seen 3, power bracelet where it is, heart container on the coast, and the magic key here in level 8. Doesn't necessarily mean that everything is normal where it's supposed to be, but the red flag is definitely there.
Yeah, definitely what should be popping off in Fred's head. Again, I don't believe Ampharos has found anything on the map yet, other than maybe seeing that heart container. So for him, he's still in the search mode, which if we find what we're looking for in level 7 will be a red candle, which is actually not a bad find, seeing as how candle is not free in this particular seed, and I don't believe either of them has seen a candle shop yet.
Fred actually did go ahead and pick up a candle.
Okay,
so he does have
that,
one. Yeah, no, getting the red candle here out of 7, assuming that's what it is, would be a huge find for AA, especially because, as you said, he doesn't have one. And that will open up his ability to be able to purchase either a blue ring if he comes across that shop, or bomb upgrades if he comes across those, or potentially even the boomstick if this turns out to be a boomstick seed.
Indeed, and I mean, that's something that could be important for Fred here to find, right? You may not know where that shop's at, and while it's 0 HP, having the boomstick is always nice, since you would know, if our drops aren't shuffled, where the wand is. But in this case, the shield would replace the book, and you would be an indicator right away. But Fred just going to pick up that Triforce and head out, and I think he's just assuming that we've got normal drops in the dungeons, or normal items, rather.
I would 100% be doing that and going with that assumption here. And yeah, back to the boomstick here for a second. Even though in a 0 HP enemy seed, the most... well, the big thing about the boomstick, pardon me, is not that it's going to, allow the wand to kill wizards and dark nuts, more along the fact that you are now never going to be bomb blocked out of a dungeon.
Yeah, but I mean, so here's the question you weigh in your mind. You know you have vanilla dungeons. How big of an issue are bombs now? While doors have been shuffled, for the most part, you know how they're going to work because you understand first quest dungeon logic, and you're not having to look for shapes.
Right, and there's the red candle in 7, all but confirming to us that dungeon drops or dungeon items have not been shuffled.
Yeah, pretty awesome flag to have. Again, it's super rare, and that means that this is going to be pretty super go mode. And unfortunately, it took him the majority of level 7 to find that. And I don't know that he had ever ran into the Triforce yet, which is in its normal room. So he may have just ended up finding that out of the good graces before finding the Triforce itself.
Yeah, I do not recall him searching for the Triforce because it looks like he is still looking around for things. So that's, Interesting. He's going to go ahead and pick up the bomb upgrade, though, which is its normal, everyday, boring 4 upgrade for 10 or 100, whatever.
Yeah, not a bad choice, though. Having found that red candle, you eliminate one of the major purchases that you need to have. Meanwhile, Fred does find another large secret of 61 right next to the original one that he found. Still sitting pretty good on money himself, even after the candle purchase, and will have enough to buy, we would assume, cheap meat as well as arrows if those are required. And with bosses not being shuffled, it could end up being an issue with the Goma in level 6. You never know.
Yeah, entirely. And there is Aquamentus in his room, and there's the heart container in Aquamentus's room. So it looks like that is boss rooms are going to be normal. And hey, look, AA finding the compass. It's going to be the last room he's going to check, because I think he's pretty much full cleared all 33 rooms. And
oh no,
double river!
Can't get to it. And he has. He's been to every room, and that compass is unavailable for him to grab. We'll see if he can find a way around to get that, and hopefully the Stalfos doesn't troll him and end up on one of the other ends.
Yeah, White Sword, they're actually in the Waterfall Cave, so that's not a good upgrade for Fred, assuming Ganon's required and isn't 0 HP. Really the only thing that White Sword could be useful for right now.
Yeah, and unfortunately, level 7 has not stopped its bullying of Ampharos thus far this tournament. Last time around had a few issues getting through the dungeon, which turned out to be the correct option, but does find the Triforce after nearly full clearing the said dungeon.
Fred's going to go ahead and pick up some bombs and some arrows here to restock his supply, which is, a good call considering it's right next to start and he has the money to do so.
Yeah, you would think at this point it's probably he's on that idea of, okay, well, I don't actually need to have most of these items anymore because I know where everything's at, so I'm not digging too hard for things and should be okay.
Yeah, and with both of these runners now, both of them are probably thinking, and Fred probably knows for sure, and AA is probably thinking that, hey, wait a second, I know where all these items are going to be, so he knows which dungeons he needs to look through and which ones they don't. So this has the potential, depending on where dungeons are located in the overworld, to being a very, very fast seed.
Very much so indeed. I mean, you got to think that one of the key dungeons these guys will be looking for then is level 5, which contains that recorder. With this being a mixed overworld, there's 11 locations that are possible for that to unlock, and it's been kind of hit or miss overall, but for the most part, when we get dungeons under recorder spots, there are dungeons under the recorder spots.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the other big thing is they already have the power bracelet as well, so that's going to unlock a lot of spaces. But the big thing with mixed overworld, I know you and I have had discussions about this before, is the later that you find recorder and power bracelet, the more backtracking it forces you to do. And the more backtracking you do, the more time you lose.
Yeah, definitely a major concern. It always sucks getting that recorder super late in the seed because most of those spots outside of the desert locations are extremely spread out. And if you've already been to Death Mountain and by the coast, and there's a couple over by Dead Woods, it's just super spread out. And unfortunately, unless you've got good any roads or things like that, you just have no quick way to access those. The only advantage that you could run into is if you've gotten several Triforces already, you might be able to whistle back to some dungeons to save some time. But either way, if you've already walked over the screen, you're losing time. Yeah,
the other thing to keep in mind, though, is the potential for whistle to old dungeons to be on and not new dungeons. So there's also the potential of, hey, I've finished off level 8, but it's going to bring you to the bush and not where its normal location is in this one.
Yeah, definitely something that they, I'm sure, should be aware of, because at the same time, if you do go to normal vanilla dungeons and you've already found level 4, there is the possibility to what I guess would say cheese the raft, and if there's a dungeon on that particular location, you would not need to have the raft to access that particular.
I have actually done that before in a race. Level 9 was either on one of the 2 raft spots, and it was whistle to old dungeons. It was a practice one I was doing. I'm like, let's take a look. Well, boy, the whistle go to 4. Hey, look, there's 9.
Yeah, it's a cool thing when it happens. It's super rare, but you definitely can't complain too much about it if it does happen.
Yeah, no, it's always fun when you get, and Fred find the third and final large secret, but it's always fun when you get the whistle to old dungeons flag check because it can allow for some strange and interesting things as Fred takes a death on the power bracelet screen. And I bring that up because in my first race, normal level 8 was the white sword item, which was the magic key. Level 9 was the normal level 6, so I got to whistle through that, get the key, whistle to 6, go in 9. Save a whole lot of walking.
Yeah. I think really honestly, while whistling to the new dungeons can be helpful, a lot of times whistling to the old dungeons is more advantageous because it's more spread out on the map. And if you need to get to a particular location, you can use that to your advantage a lot more of the time versus trying to use the new dungeons, as a lot of times they might end up being clumped in Death Mountain or such, and it's basically like having 4 any roads that are exactly in the same place. It's not very helpful.
Yeah, but the big thing here is we're seeing a lot of the overworld being explored already. We've only seen 2 dungeons so far, or 3 technically if you count 9, on the east side of Hyrule. So there's a very good possibility we're going to have a lot of Death Mountain dungeons, or a lot of Dead Woods dungeons, or hopefully in my mind, a lot of recorder dungeons.
Yeah, again, as you're pointing out, they've pretty much cleared everything but what would be the grave in Death Mountain, and such have only found a couple of dungeons. Fred should bump into has he already got level 8? He's already got level 8, so yeah, I mean, he's clearing up this portion of the woods, and all that's left is Death Mountain. Or sorry, Ampharos is finding
Well,
that.
seem to have gotten past my technical difficulties now. Go figure.
All right, so AA has come across level 8, which means, in theory, he will be finding at least the any key, because the any key seemed to be right on the path that Fred took to the Triforce.
I believe so. It was pretty quick. It wasn't too far out of the way, and if he hasn't put 2 and 2 together yet, I think that will do it for him. I mean, again, he's only found that one dungeon item, so you can't really infer that dungeon items aren't shuffled or drops aren't shuffled off of that, but I think once you find 2, it starts to be kind of evident, as that's really rare.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And to answer your question, Bartman, with mixed overworld, that basically means the following. If there is a cave location on that screen in both first and second quest, there will be a cave on there. If there is only a cave location in that screen in one of the 2 quests, there's a chance there will be a cave on there. So,
you were getting ready to go ahead. I was just going to say the same thing you were.
So basically here in the grave that Fred is in, none of the 3 grave spots are in both quests, so there's a chance it's going to be neither one. As you can see, Fred pushing that tombstone where the magic sword is in quest 1, nothing. And hey, look, nothing over here for the heart container in quest 2.
Yeah, just I think compiling onto the fact that we've got quite a few recorder spots, and I've had it where none of the grave spots have done anything. They're kind of like, okay, well, let's just delete this portion off the map and make it easier for me to get up to Death Mountain.
Yeah, pretty much.
Finds another secret. Meanwhile, AA, trying to figure out where to go in this level 8, took the transport staircase. I believe should be running into perhaps the any key here pretty quickly.
Yeah, and the any key is one of those items where you're never upset to find it, but it's not something you desperately you need all the time.
No, but the earlier in the seed, the better. Especially when you have lots of dungeons to explore. It saves you time clearing out rooms for keys. Right at this point, you know that Triforces are in their normal rooms. So outside of looking for staircases or item drops in 1 and 2, the only thing you'd really be looking for are keys. And so getting the any key this early means that really you don't have to spend any time in a dungeon outside of looking for those particular items, and then you go.
Yeah, and any key is huge because that is going to, again, as you said, speed up the dungeon capabilities, and also means at this point that anytime there's a locked door in a dungeon that we don't want to waste a key on, we can just walk through and not waste the time of pirouetting back in and out.
Definitely, yeah. It's just one of those speed functions, and while not the ladder and not the recorder, which is probably what you're looking for most, it definitely makes it faster for you to get through the dungeons, as it just reduces the amount of things that you need to think about and the decisions that you need to make.
Fred here is in level 6 and is ladder blocked out of 6, finding a vertical river room there in the dark. So Fred is not going to be able to do level 6 till he comes back with the ladder, and he needs to find level 4 to do that.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure what Ampharos is doing trying to fight this manhandler. You would think at this point he would know that the Triforces are in their rooms. And so I'm not quite sure what he's looking for, outside of maybe a compass. But I guess I would rather just head to some extra rooms instead of, you know, trying to kill Trollhandler, because he's never nice.
Yeah, manhandle, never fun. I also like Fred's little idea here of popping back into level 6 real quick to refill on hearts after the Blue Lionels decided they did not like the fact that Link was wearing green and turned Fred into, well, I'm not sure what you want to call it, but it's not pretty.
Indeed. And the overworld monsters not being shuffled really sucks up on Death Mountain early, because these Lionel screens can be a real pain to navigate through. And we do see Fred find another dungeon, which
It's 4, and that's the
indicates
breakfast
must
room.
be 4. Yeah, so this should be the item.
Oh no, items are shuffled.
Yeah, like, so, wow. Like, the chances of that are so rare to have 2 items in their normal dungeon. So now Fred's got to be like, well, crap, now I may need to go back to level 8.
Wow, that changes the complexion of this race entirely.
Completely, absolutely, yeah. I mean, wow. Joke's on us.
Yeah, I mean, the information was there. Any key in 8, red candle in 7, power bracelet, heart container, everything was there for
White
everything to be
sword, yeah.
unshuffled. Yeah, white sword, everything. And then, oh, by the way, here, have the magic boomerang.
Yeah, that's intense. That is one of those things you don't want to see. But 0 HP bosses is something that I don't think anybody minds.
No, 0 HP bosses is always a fun thing to see, especially when you run into the 4-headed Gliok guard and stuff. The other big thing to note here for those of you watching, if you've never seen, you know, if you've done a random percent before here, and you didn't know whether you were in shapes or not, if you walk into a dungeon and you see dark rooms can only exist if it's not in shapes. So if you see a room that you have to light up with a candle, you are guaranteed to be in normal dungeon shapes, because dark rooms do not exist when the dungeons create their own shapes.
Indeed, and another important tip to go with dark rooms, if, you know, we do have shuffled drops in the dungeons, which in this case we don't, but if you do, it is impossible for the Triforce to ever be located in those rooms. So if all you're looking for is the Triforce, then you should completely ignore those rooms and move on.
Same logic applies to the heart container, actually, as well.
The more you know.
Cue the NBC theme music. And no, we are not sponsored by NBC.
We're not sponsored by the Nitro Bomb Company, then who makes our bombs?
Acme.
Aren't they the same thing? Didn't they get all bought by Disney?
I don't know, but do we really want to get into Disney right now as Fred has found level 3?
Level 3 is a good place to find on the map, as it should contain an easy to find item. With its normal dungeon rooms, it's going to be one of those right-hand staircases. So you can generally bomb along the spine on the left-hand side to determine where that is, because you wouldn't be able to get through. But he is low on bombs, so unless he gets some, he'll probably just take a walk around.
Well, if drops are
Oh,
the same,
shoot.
then we know exactly what rooms are going to drop bombs here. Like, you know, this one, for
Will be a
example.
bomb room. Thank you to Unos and his any percent runs.
Yep, that's the only reason I know that.
And finds that early Triforce, but he's going to go ahead and search the dungeon, I would assume, to try to find whatever item is available in here.
Well, the heart container is available in this room.
And he does get it.
Interesting option here, going with the many hearts strategy, because we've seen a couple of 0 HP races where low percent hearts was the option just to stick with beam sword, and we see the other options here, both of our runners gathering up every heart that they see. So it is a very interesting strategy to do one of the two of those. and depending on how confident you are in your ability to combat is definitely, you know, a choice worth making. I can see the merits in both of them. So, what's your thoughts on that?
It just depends on how you want to see your level 9 go, I think. A lot of it is going to depend on, while there are many flags to make it so that Ganon's required, if he is, I don't know of a whole lot of people that would rather do it with 3 hearts and a green tunic versus, say, 11 hearts and a green tunic. I'm kind of in that boat as well. Yes, you could low percent it, but if the heart containers are there, I feel like you ought to just take them. I don't think Beam Sword is that big of a deal. This portion of the seed, and Fred finding the book, unfortunately finding the book, but I think I would rather have the hearts on the off chance that Ganon's required, so I don't take this big long trek through level 9 to find Ganon after he's required and die over and over again.
Yes, Data, to answer your question, the rooms within the dungeons are shuffled, but rooms are not shuffled from dungeon to dungeon. So that horizontal shoot room can only be seen in 3. The vertical shoot room can only be seen in 9. This is very similar to the starting flags we had last time, actually, with dungeons not being labeled, being in shapes. The difference between the two right now that I can see between our first round or first set of flags in the last tournament and this one is the 0 HP enemies. Everything else is pretty much the exact same as the first round tournament flags last year.
Yeah, and it's important to note too that enemies are actually in their original rooms as well. So the only thing that's inside the dungeon that is shuffled is where those rooms are actually located in the dungeon, and then what dungeon items are available in the staircases. Outside of that, enemies occur in their original rooms, and all of the original rooms are there.
Now, taking a look over at AA's side here, that is the one advantage that Fred would have in this is AA does not screen scroll or screen wrap. He does do all the clipping and stuff, but does not screen wrap. So Fred being able to screen wrap, getting over to Death Mountain a little earlier, could prove to be extremely useful.
Yeah, it's about a 35-second time save to be able to screen wrap there on the screen right there by 7 versus taking the walking path. So again, not a huge deal, but we've seen races decided by less, so it does add up over time, especially if you have to keep coming back this way to get up to Death Mountain.
I'm getting the feeling here that level 8 is going to contain either the ladder or the recorder or the raft, one of the 3 things we're going to need to get to some dungeons because we're running out of places to look.
Yeah, and I would say advantage Fred there just because he fully does understand that dungeon items are shuffled at this point. The dungeon items are shuffled. And again, AA at this point, he hasn't seen more than 1, but he's got to maybe assume, he's seen 2, and he's seen the red candle and the any key, right? So, and the white sword in its spot, the power bracelet in its spot. So you're assuming, okay, well, I'm running normal dungeon items here, so I'm just going to skip everything but 1 and probably 4 and 5 for the recorder.
Yeah, and Fred, going back to 8, looks like that's the only option he's got left. So there's something in here that's going to unlock something. Whether I personally wanted to see it to be the raft leading to recorder, leading to ladder. That's what I want to see. But then again, we all know I love to see things go long and trolly, except when they're on my seeds.
Indeed. So yeah, at this point, I think we've eliminated every possibility but level 8 containing what would probably be the recorder. I'm not sure. Again, the only thing you could do would be like a raft, and there's a raft dungeon, which would then have to lead to the recorder. But there has to be something in here that unlocks more of the overworld.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, technically, it could even be the ladder as well, because we have the possibility of the 2 ladder required to enter dungeons up near the Lost Hills. So ladder could also unlock things as well here.
Yeah, I think if you're Fred, you want to see the ladder or the raft for sure, because it eliminates where you got to look to begin with. And obviously, you would want to be able to get the easier ones like that out of the way before dealing with all the recorder spots.
Yeah, ladder also unlocks level 6, which could host something.
That is true. That would be an interesting compromise to get the ladder here and then have to go to 6. And looks like Ampharos is going to end up finding the same thing that Fred did. That 6 is currently inaccessible.
Yeah, but it definitely makes for an interesting seed here when the possibilities that you have are pretty limited, but those possibilities can extend into different, branching possibilities, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah, indeed. And unfortunately, Fred gonna nearly full clear this dungeon, it looks like, trying to figure out where this second item is hiding. I believe this is
Let's
probably
say,
it.
I think this is it, because I think we've seen all the other staircases.
Yeah, and that's also the configuration of the book room. So we do find a ladder here, which is a fantastic item to find, but again leads to that, well, it's either the 2 vanilla spots that require the ladder in second quest, or we've got to go to level 6.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those very interesting things. Now, Fred opting to go ahead and tree clip to try and burn where vanilla level 7 would be in second quest. Beautiful clip, unfortunately not yielding any fruit.
Yeah, it looks like he's might go over here and pick up the heart off the coast. Not necessarily a bad choice.
No, absolutely not. I mean, and on the off chance that Ganon might be required, getting to 10 hearts and having the capability of potentially picking up the magic sword is always a good thing. AA over in the breakfast room now is going to figure out, wait a second, not everything is as I thought it was here.
Yeah, unfortunately, the blue boomerang being something you don't want to find in that case, but Fred opting to go back to level 7, which we know Ampharos has already cleared. It looks like he hadn't cleared all of the forest either, so an interesting choice on his part to go to level 8 versus checking those last spots before actually digging that item.
Yeah, I think we both were under the assumption that Fred had gone into level 7, which he hadn't, so going to 8 was the correct call, as we know. But going to 7 here, he needs it anyway, so the sad part about this is the Triforces we saw on AA side buried pretty deep here.
Yeah, I mean, and not a bad choice on his part, right? We're in vanilla dungeons. Nobody wants to dig 7 for an item, because most of the time it's, it's just not a fun dungeon to navigate due to the bomb walls. This is the one that can really cost you the bombs and the keys if you don't do it right. And sometimes it's, you got to take that staircase because the rest of the dungeon has been cut off due to unbombable walls, and you have to take a really odd path to get to where you need to go.
Absolutely, and at this point, Fred, there's a fairly good chance he's going to look for the...
He might have blown up.
No, my chair decided, you know how when you have computer chairs, they have two settings, you can lock it so you can lean back slowly, or you have to lean back all the far. Well, it was locked in its upright position. I leaned back and it unlocked, so I went back and my knee hit my desk.
Ouch. I hope you're okay. I've had that happen, and it's a scary moment in life. Everything flashes before your eyes.
Yep, I'm fine. I was just doing some live explosion testing, that's all.
We're just testing out new sound effects for Randomizer 4.0. No worries.
Yeah, that's the new boomstick sound.
But meanwhile, Fred making his way through the dungeon here. If he takes a right, he should run, or not a right. He should run into the Triforce. We'll find the bomb upgrade here, and I'm sure he's going to buy it. So both of our runners will be sitting at 12 bombs, which again is not a bad thing. You still have to navigate vanilla level 9 with shuffled rooms, so the bomb walls could end up being an issue.
Yeah, and the other thing to keep in mind now is Zelda and Ganon's room is going to be in 9. So fairly good chance here that Zelda's going to be in her own room, which means you can only approach Zelda's room from the south. So that's something to keep in mind as our runners get into level 9.
Yeah, it's a big thing to know too, because again, I talk about it a lot, and I've talked about it on a couple of races recently, but the way that you navigate level 9 changes upon those factors, and knowing that her room is in fact in level 9 means that you should be playing the game of going up for the most part, trying to find her in her room until proven wrong.
Yeah, well, level 9 navigating is a different beast depending on where you are and what you have.
Yeah, absolutely, and you have to be adaptable. to get through level 9s efficiently. And Fred finding that red candle, it has to be kind of like, what? I mean, if he had found that earlier on,
getting Aquamentide as well.
yeah, that's maybe a blessing in disguise, as he was heading the wrong direction for the Triforce, but we'll see if he heads back the same way or not. Meanwhile, Ampharos, digging through level 3 here, hasn't found the item yet, but I believe will be happy when he does, because we all love finding books.
Hey, it all depends on the book you're reading.
Aquamentos, the Fresh Maker.
Which, by the way, one of my favorite nicknames for bosses in Zelda is definitely calling Aquamentus the Fresh Maker.
And Ampharos finding the book. He doesn't have a cam, but you have to figure he's got a little bit of a look of disgust on his face right now, and he's going to head back over to the Triforce on the other side. Meanwhile, Fred does take the other side and finds the Triforce right away, so maybe that death saved him some time.
Also, breaking news in chat, Jay Coper has admitted he's wrong.
Yeah, somebody screen cap that, or send it to the Guinness Book of World Records.
All right, so one of the two ladder spots coming, bearing, again, no fruit here. So if this second spot doesn't have anything, then we know that level 6 contains something that we need.
Yeah, looks like it. And digging vanilla level 6, again, not usually fun. Has kind of an odd configuration. You know, there is the opportunity for that item to be along the way, but generally not the place you want to be digging for an item either.
Speaking of that, AA is in level 6 and realizing, wait, I'm actually ladder blocked. This is bad.
Yeah, he's got to be thinking the same thing at this point. Head back to level 8, obviously, because that's the only dungeon he's got, right? He's got to finish up Death Mountain here, but outside of that, it's only level 8 that he hasn't found the other item in, so he knows right where to go once he finds out that there are no more dungeons available.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely an interesting thing. Also, something I want to point out here, that for people who normally watch Fred stream, normally Fred plays as the Gibdo sprite, but here he's chosen to play as normal Link. So just want to point out, that should tell you the how serious Fred is taking this match, opting to not use the Gibdo sprite, which he tends to have a little bit of trouble screen wrapping with, in favor of the much more consistent Link sprite.
Yeah, and again, I can understand why AA is definitely no slouch when it comes to this game, and you need every second that you can get. And he's going to go ahead and clear out this room here, as it could be a drop room. There are 3 of these. Actually, I don't know that this is the drop room, because the drop room contains only whiz robes in the vanilla game, so that should be the double block room that he's looking for.
I don't remember where or what the item room in 6 looks like. I never actually, go and get the wand, because you never get it in the any percent run.
You should be watching Jay Coper more often. Do his swordless runs. This is also not going to be the item room. So he found both of the double block rooms that are the dummies in level 6 before finding the one that he needs to find, which I believe has got 3 blue whiz robes and 2 orange whiz robes in it. It might be 2 and 2 though.
Well, we do have the Triforce there, which is nice, but unfortunately it doesn't help because we need the item out of here.
Yeah, and you have to imagine at this point that this is the recorder. Again, the raft is a possibility, but you would just think the game logic would be a recorder, just to make it a little bit easier to find other spots. And at the rate we're going here, there's got to be at least 1 recorder dungeon. As we've only found, 6 dungeons so far, and there's only 2 raft spots, so there has to be at least one recorder dungeon, and this will be the staircase that will take him somewhere.
To the raft. Ooh.
To the raft. Okay, well that's interesting.
This just became very, very interesting. Sail over the water to reach the recorder.
So here's an interesting tidbit, right? That is actually the staircase that is the transport staircase in level 6. It seems like even if you have got normal dungeon configurations, right, where the drops aren't shuffled, the staircases can still be moved in between possible staircases, which is kind of an odd deal to have, actually. Kind of a little odd tidbit of the logic.
Which is fine, though, because it just adjusts the staircase. It's kind of the same way it adjusts the old men room, that you can get the hints and the non-hints and all that. So it definitely just adjusts them around in that same sort of logic. So I actually find it rather fascinating that it does that.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just one of those things to look out for. Where if again, like for me, I would be looking for not that particular room. That's not the room I would have been looking for the drop, because that's not where it normally is. And Fred not finding anything on vanilla level 4, which means we have to trek back over to the coast to see what dungeon is available on that raft spot. And if there isn't one, what are these two guys missed?
I have no idea. The good part for Fred, though, is there's an any road that's going to take him from right over here to the southeast of vanilla level 1's location over to the coast cave. So he has a pretty quick way to get over there.
Jiggly Saint, to answer your question, the other item in 8 is the ladder, which is required to get into level 6 because of the ladder block, which is required to get the raft, which is going to be required to get into the dungeon that will be on this raft spot. So as somebody else pointed out in chat, an extremely linear seed that currently Ampharos is quite a ways behind on.
And that confirms that the recorder is going to be in level 2 because that's what the power we have here.
Yeah, so definitely level 2, and definitely must be recorder because there is no other way to access dungeons. To answer your question, Jake Hoper, he was just he didn't screen scroll a little bit, which cost him some time. Not a whole lot, obviously, but was just doing some searching and was just a bit slower than Fred, but also dug out level 7 for the item first, and he nearly full cleared it, which cost him a lot of the initial time, whereas Fred only did probably, I would say, 65% of 7. Having assumed at that point that items were in their normal locations. However, turns out they are not, but it ended up being a boon for Fred because he took the any key out of 8 and took off, but did not explore level 7 early like Ampharos did, which cost him probably the majority of the difference here.
And there is the recorder pickup for Fred in level 2. He's going to get the Triforce there as well. So that's going to put him in a pretty commanding position overall because AA still has to get back to Death Mountain and do 6. Yeah, that's the thing. Early in the seed, the first items that we saw were Power Bracelet under an Armos, Heart Container on the coast, Red Candle in 7, Any Key in 8, and by the way, Recorder is bringing you to normal dungeon locations, which is going to be nice for transport. So we all were under the assumption that dungeon items were not shuffled. It wasn't until probably about the half-hour mark where we found a magic boomerang in 4 that things went south.
They haven't found level 5 yet, Jake Hoper. They're looking for level 5 and level 1 still, which again, that would be, like TG just explained, the assumption when you find those 5 items and those are the first things you see, I'm pretty sure most people are going to jump to the conclusion that we've already got vanilla dungeon items, and it just turned out to not be the case. And as TG also pointed out, we've got vanilla whistle locations, which actually is a pretty big boon because you could whistle to level 2 as Fred just did, level 8, and you can also go over to level 7's lake. So there's a lot of places that you can go to access these whistle locations very quickly.
And there's level 5 in the forest near start. And the thing here is Fred is definitely going to be searching the item out because he still needs the bow, potentially still needs the bow, because there is that 50% chance Ganon is not required. But at this point, I think he has to be like,
well, yeah, I mean, at this point, if I find that Triforce, I think I'm going to take it and leave because I've still got it level 1, and we'll see what he does here as he finds the Triforce room.
Looks like he's going to grab the Triforce. The thing with this is it's so close to vanilla level 1 and to start. But this is a very, easy location to get back to. And vanilla 1 is a whole lot easier to search than 5. I don't know if I would be taking the gamble here, but I definitely can understand him doing it.
7-8, that pawn was like taking an arrow to the knee. Please, just no more. Yeah, and Fred, I think making the wise decision to not search level 5. Again, level 1's got 2 items. You know the configuration. You know that it's going to be Guerrilla. You know that you have 2 items. It's the smart play to make at this point. And we don't even know that Ganon's required. So the bow, while useful, is not necessarily one of those things you have to have. Meanwhile, we do have Ampharos getting himself into level 6, finding out that Dig Dogger hates certain kinds of rap music, and he should find the raft here fairly quickly and realize that this has been a very linear seed overall.
Level 7 also going to give us some money. So we are running out of recorder spots to take a look at. We have the one that's in the southern part of the Dead Woods here, the one that could be the grave, the one right after the Lost Woods, and then we have the Death Mountain ones.
Yeah, that's all that's left. So we'll see what happens. Again, the problem of mixed overworld, right? It feels like all the time it's a full clear because you have to backtrack on top of it. So you lose so much time off of it. But these guys still making
there it is,
fantastic
right there.
progress, and level 1 located.
Yeah, so definitely, level 1 being all of 15, 16, 14 rooms, whatever it is. This is definitely one of those that you're going to want to take a peek at and to find both items, especially considering one of them what room is going to drop in the close 4x block.
Yeah, indeed, and you'll know that it's a staircase, obviously, because there's only one staircase in level 1, so items are easy to locate. This should be the item room right here.
There's the bow.
Fantastic find, which means he made the right decision with 5, and at this point should be in go mode, unless for some odd reason we do have Silver Arrow shuffled out of 9.
Well, he's going to check the staircase right here anyway because he's right here. And we found the wooden boomerang, so going to say no. So the items in 1 were the normal items in 1, just switched locations. Wow, this seed has all kinds of troll.
Very interesting indeed. And in fact, in this seed, that is a helpful hint. Because Patra should, in fact, have the map.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Ampharos has found the raft and has picked up the Triforce in level 6. Unfortunately, at this point, is a solid 3 dungeons behind. 2.5, but
the good
close
part
to being
for
3.
the good part for AA is the fact that 2 is extremely quick, 5 is extremely quick if he doesn't dig, and 1 is going to have the item he needs either way, and 1 is a fairly small dungeon. So it is one of those things where he's 2.5 dungeons behind, but those 2.5 dungeons aren't really large.
That is true to point out. And if Ganon is in fact required and the silvers are in a really odd spot, it has happened more than once that AA happenstances into the silver arrows very quickly and does find his way to Ganon. So this is definitely still a race, but by far and large, definitely a lead for Fred Coughlin.
Yeah, absolutely. So at this point, the only 3 items we are missing are the wand, the silver arrows, and the red ring. Statistically speaking, that puts silver arrows at about an 80% chance or so to be in level 9, either with the flag being checked on or with the just the fact they're shuffled there randomly.
Probably a little bit more, but yeah, it's it's the gamble you got to make. It's the only thing that makes sense. I mean, I'm not going to go dig level 5. You've got vanilla level 9, and again, you're getting triple your money. You're looking for Zelda, you're looking for Ganon, and the silvers are probably in here, so there's no reason to go to level 5. And you may not need Ganon to begin with.
True, but yeah, 1 HP Patra, always nice.
Yeah, 1 HP orbits and 1 HP Badger at that, so super easy bosses to deal with in this seed.
Interesting note there, Fred opting to not take a peek down the staircase.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Again, you're looking for Zelda first, right? That's your main goal. If you play level 9 the way that a lot of people do, it's you go up until you can't anymore, and then you go left or right, and then you keep trying to go up, just because you again don't know that you need to have the silver arrows. And you know, Fred's playing a player with of the caliber of Ampharos. You never know where he is, so every second counts.
Oh, absolutely. I just, with that corridor staircase, I would have peeked in real quick just to take a look.
Yeah, I mean, again, with the logic shuffled, right? And this is why I brought that up about it being interesting in level 6. And again, I don't think it's a bad thing, but the staircase that he just went through, the reverse C there, that's normally the silver arrow staircase in level 9. But if the logic still shuffles which stairs get the items, then that may not necessarily be the case. So it's just interesting to note that those can be changed and can change how you think about that.
Yeah, but chat makes a good point here. I think it was Jay Coper that Fred is rooms he wants to kill are going to be the black background rooms, because that one of those rooms is what's going to drop the compass in the normal game. So being able to get the compass is going to be huge.
Yeah, definitely agree. And Fred started taking some staircases simply because he's in the north and he wants to get down towards the south, because he's following that same pattern of I want to go up. And in this case goes down, just checking to make sure. And again, we do know that Zelda and Ganon's rooms are here, but there's still a 50% chance that they're not in their normal room. So it's just a tough decision on what exactly you want to do as far as your clear pattern.
Yeah, no, I definitely like this call of going up trying to find Zelda, because, statistically speaking, as I can't talk, neither can you apparently with
Statistics.
Statistically speaking, of course, she's going to be in her own room. And, ooh, Fred barely managed to get out of the way of that red Wizrobe beam.
Yeah, meanwhile, AA clearing the desert here, not finding what he's looking for, but should find level 5 fairly quickly, I would assume. He looks like he's going to go up to Death Mountain first, which is unfortunately not the correct direction, but, obviously his choices are dwindling on where those last 2 dungeons can be.
Yeah, we know he is unfortunately in the wrong area. And Jay Cooper brings up a very good point in the chat. Enemies aren't shuffled between rooms, so based on that logic alone, Zelda and Ganon can't be shuffled out of their own rooms.
That is a good point, yes. And to kind of comment on what Shifted said, where Fred almost went from 100 to 0 in that Wizrobe room, even with 0 HP, these dark ladder rooms can be deadly, is really what it comes down to. So even though it's 0 hit points, it can still be brutal to go through some of these level 9s, especially vanilla level 9, where a lot of the Wizrobe rooms are in fact pretty badly configured.
AA now has come across level 5, going to pick himself up another bomb upgrade, giving him the max potential in this seed, which is 16. And it is going to be interesting to see whether or not he chooses to Triforce and go here in 5, as Fred did, or if he's going to opt to dig for the item, which, statistically speaking, is probably the wand.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't dig for the item. At this point, you think, again, you got to have that logic of, well, level 1's got 2 items and it's a lot smaller. Let's just go there first, and if I need to come back, I will. And also, you got to maybe think that AA is feeling the pressure a little bit at this point. Maybe thinking that he might be a little bit behind, and may not even have the bow in the back of his mind, right? I mean, it's just one of those things where you got to go fast, and if you feel like you're behind, you might take some of those shortcuts. But it does take that Triforce, and will be rewarded with the bow on his way to the Triforce in level 1. And Fred finding a staircase, then nopes right on back out because who wants to play with blue land molas?
I can tell you I don't.
Again, another one of those enemies that even at 0 HP are not fun to tango with.
Yeah, just because they move so fast, just why like 0 HP blue darknets are a pain, just because they move on a dime. But Fred running out of places to look in here in level 9 for both Ganon and Zelda, more specifically Zelda. I haven't had sound on, so I don't know if he's heard any Ganon roaring here, but...
I have not either. Luckily, finding some bombs here will help replenish his stock, but does find a way into a portion of the dungeon he hasn't been, but then runs into 3 solid walls.
AA has made his way down into the Deadwoods, where he is going to absolutely find a level 1. Fred killing this dark room, of course, so we can attempt to get a compass drop.
Yeah, very smart choice. Unfortunately, just gets 5 rupees for his trouble.
And I believe this is going to be Patra 1, because I haven't seen any bombs drop in a Patra room yet.
Yeah, should be Patra 1, which will give him bombs if he wants them. Still trying to figure out where the heck to go. Again, vanilla level 9 is not precisely kind when it comes to bomb walls, just because of the way that they can be shuffled. Sometimes can make it very difficult to find where you need to go. And he's pretty much full cleared the majority of the middle, so he's just got a little bit of the extremities left to go. And, you know, Ganon's got to be in one of those spots, and Zelda's got to be in one of those spots.
And Patra's going to be one of those spots, too. Look.
Yeah, another Patra. AA at the same time, running into the Patra has the map hint.
Or something else, which turned out to be something else here.
Indeed. Does pick up
Ganon's
a
not required.
Ganon, not required. So Bo turned out to not matter. Silver Arrows turning out not to matter. The pig, no bacon today. And Fred will finish with an official time of 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 12 seconds. While AA is making his way through level 1 here and should be finished with it shortly.
Yep. Gonna go ahead and pick up the Triforce there, so he's gonna make his way back over to level 9, which is just one short whistle away from level 8, as we know. The interesting thing is going to be if AA chooses to hunt down staircases, or if he does the same thing Fred did.
I think he'd take staircases, but we'll follow the same path logic that Fred does. Gonna check for magical sword.
Nope.
And we have shuffled hearts. Interesting. It's not very often we get the opportunity to see if that flag is on or off, and that is the second time. One of them being my flag, or my race the other night, where
our race the other night, yeah,
our race the other night, where it was in fact shuffled. So it doesn't matter too much in this seed, obviously, but in ours, it actually I think made a pretty large difference, and can be super frustrating to try to get that at times.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would 100% agree with you on that. But anyway, AA has now made his way back over to the forest where level 9 and its sinister skull motif awaits.
Indeed, and you got to attribute this probably a lot to the early level 7 exploration on Ampharos' part, possibly costing him this race. He spent a long time in there. I mean, as you can see, his first Triforce split was 16 minutes. And in that time, Fred had been exploring the overworld and found level 8, had got the Any Key and knocked out, you know, even more of the overworld in that time while Ampharos was digging level 7. Did find a candle, but it didn't end up mattering at all in this seed. You know, and you have to think that that's probably the big difference maker here.
And speaking of that, hello, Fred.
Hey there.
So I guess, yeah. So I guess I'll just get right to it and ask the first question. When you first saw the Any Key there in 8, were you under the assumption, like we were, that this was non-shuffle items?
I was definitely working under that assumption. It's part of the reason that I immediately started hunting in 4, hunting for 4. As I was hunting around, I was hoping 4 would give me the ladder. So I definitely went with the assumption. But fortunately, there was enough of a chain of items that I guess I was able to find it quickly enough. Because that's the thing. I walked into 4 and I saw the magic boomerang when I went down the staircase, and I just, completely floored all the assumption that I'd had up to that point.
Yeah, us too.
Yeah, and Ampharos' first dungeon was level 7, which he dug and found the red candle. And then his second item he found was the Eniki in 8. So we pretty much assume he had the same logical path that he was following. And then he found the boomerang in 4 like you did. And it's like, oh, well, I missed something somewhere.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. And, as I said, I just never had checked that side room in 8. And if I had, things obviously would have been very different considering that's where the ladder was. But, once I saw the any key, I was less concerned about items. If I found the staircase, I was going to take it in case I was wrong. But, when you see the any key in 8 and you see the overworld, all those flags apparently unshuffled, it makes you think that there's a decent chance everything's unshuffled.
Yeah, definitely one of the, I would say, more linear seeds that we've had. Not
Yeah, it
a
almost
whole
felt
lot
like
that
I
you
was
could
playing
do.
one of those Link to the Past randomizer seeds with the fact that you needed ladder to get into 6, to get the raft, to go into 2, to get the recorder, to find the rest of the dungeons.
Oh wow! And
AA finding Link there,
wow.
so that's a
So,
fast level 9 for AA there.
yeah, again, coming back to, you have to
wow.
think that if he hadn't spent all that time in level 7 early, this would have been an extremely close race.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, heck, it's still 4 minutes apart. That's still incredibly close for this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially considering AA didn't even enter 9 until after you had already done. So yeah, that was an extremely fast level 9 for AA there.
Wow, yeah, and I was going to say, I think I did over 75% according to the map I've got drawn in front of me right now.
You did quite a bit. I'm not sure exactly whether it was 75%, 80%, but we're just going to call it a lot percent.
I count 12, maybe 13 rooms I didn't step into. So it's pretty up there.
And with that, AmazingAmpharos has joined us in the call as well. Hello there.
Hello. I just have to know, Fred, did you find the red candle in 7, the magic key in 8, assume that items weren't shuffled, and skipped the ladder in 8 too?
I skipped the ladder in 8, but I hadn't dug 7 at that point. I saw the any key, kind of went with the assumption, got over to 4 eventually, said, oh, boomerang. And knew it had to either be 8 or 7, and I'd missed like a couple of spots, so I was like, maybe there's a dungeon in one of those 2. So I then dug into 8 because I was on my way to second 7 and first 8, and happened to find the ladder there. I was like, okay, yeah, that would do things. And I thought I was going to be behind you pretty much the whole way. I ended up still digging 7. I found the red candle in 7 in the process of the digging to try to find the Triforce. I was going for an item at that point because I knew I was pretty close to shut out of things. I was hoping it would be somewhere there in 7. I kept assuming that you were going to have a big lead over me just because of that.
Yeah, because in the first half hour, 7 and 8 were the only 2 dungeons I found, because everything was in the northwest, which was the last place I went.
Right.
So I found 7, full cleared it, less 1 room, looking for Triforce, found red candle on the way. I'm like, okay, items are probably not shuffled. Still didn't have a candle, not so bad. Go into 8. Get
Same
the
assumption.
magic key. Search most of 8 for Triforce. Don't even bother checking the last couple rooms, because why do I want
At that point, it's the book. Yeah.
Yeah. And then find 6. I'm like, I bet this will be ladder blocked. So I'm going to go and look, see if I can find 4 around here. Find 4 here. Items in the second room.
Yup.
Yeah, that was
Find
everybody's
3.
reaction.
Then I find 3. Have to full clear it, minus 1 room that couldn't possibly have the item, and there's the book.
Yep.
I'm like,
same path here, I think, pretty much.
yeah, that was pretty bad. So when I finally go back into 8, I've cleared the entire overworld, and I know that 8 has to have a key to progression. It's the ladder. Walk all the way back to 6. Find the raft. Of course, the second raft island. There's
Same
my
here, yep.
recorder. I think when I finally found one, I had 2 possible recorder spots left in the world.
Yeah, I hadn't hit the couple up on the one up on Death Mountain and the grave stuff. I think that was the only ones I hadn't hit at that point.
I had hit the Death Mountain one, but yeah, the grave stuff was where I was headed.
Whew. What a seed. And I hear you kind of destroyed 9 relative to me, though.
Yeah,
Kind of reminds me of the opposite, I think, of our first race that we had in the first tournament, where we entered close to the same time, and I had like a 5-minute longer 9 or something like that. You seem to dominate these 9s.
Yeah, I was just looking for Zelda's room, and it was really on a pretty direct path from the start.
Yeah, that's what you'd think.
But I mean, it can't make up for finding everything at literally the last possible moment the whole
That's
rest
true.
of the game. I mean,
That's
it
true.
could be worse. At least I was smart enough to gamble that I didn't need 5's item.
Yeah, no, you definitely, I think, made a good choice on that. I didn't find it either. I did the same thing. I went in 3 rooms, saw that, said, okay, if I really need it, I'll whistle back here later.
Well, it was 6 rooms for me, but yeah.
Yeah, I just took the right turn on the first. Oh, was it 6 for me? It may have been 6 for me. I don't remember if I took the left or the right turn.
Yeah.
It may have been about the same. But regardless of which, we saw the Triforce. We said, yeah, we're both behind. We both thought we were behind, and we grabbed it and ran.
I mean, at the point I began the chain reaction, there's no way you weren't so far ahead that you'd already won.
And I kept thinking the same thing about you, especially figuring, okay, you saw 7-8. I figured you would have dug on at least some of those and would have gotten that. So, whew.
Yeah, I would say probably the biggest difference maker was your choice to dig 7 early. I mean, Fred, again, like you said, found the red candle as well, but actually died soon thereafter, and it turned out to be a boon because he went the other direction and ran into the Triforce. So probably only cleared about 65% of 7, which, is a few minutes difference depending on how the rooms go. So, there's only 4 minutes between you guys finishing here that could have made the difference.
Yeah, but digging 7 early didn't cost me any time because I would have looked in all those same rooms looking for Triforce anyway. Like, the fact that I ran into Red Candle before Triforce basically means that 7 was just bad luck, and the time in the game I did it was irrelevant.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, it makes sense from a logical perspective, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that may have been different, again, I didn't pay attention to what rooms I hit where, or if any of the river rooms may have potentially been something out of order, may have forced you to go a different path maybe than I would have been able to go through in there. I'm not really sure about that or not. I don't remember what rooms I saw.
The double river room was the northwestmost corner. It prevented me
and
from
I
getting
almost
the
was in there.
compass, but by the time I was in there, I was down to 2 rooms left, and I picked the right one that was remaining.
Oh, nice. Yeah, as I said, I actually died in Aquamentus' room. I knew I was going to die as soon as I walked into his room because I had half a heart left and I knew he was going to shoot the fireballs right away. If I'd managed to kill him, then that would have gotten me the compass because at that point I did have the ladder. I was hoping for a recorder or something in 7, and, well, it wasn't there.
Yeah, I had a really pretty early overworld death in the northeast part of the world, and I honestly figured I'd lost the race from then because 0 HP enemies, you make any mistake, you automatically lose. My favorite flag.
Oh, yeah. I definitely had some. I don't know if I died much on the overworld, but because I got 3 deaths that I know I had, but I think 2 of those were in 7 actually.
Yeah, I had
Or at
that
least
one
once.
in the northeast, and then I had one to the manhandle in 8, and that wasn't
I think it
that
was one in 8.
costly of a death.
Yeah, I died to the Blue Lagoon in 8 the first time I went through. I was saying to myself, okay, I can just dodge around these guys. I don't hug. Dead.
What are the odds that red candles in 7, magic keys in 8, random percent, and the other item in 8 is the ladder?
Pretty low, I'd say. But,
and then the ladder
I mean,
is the beginning of a super long chain reaction, so like the whole seed is gated behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying to them when we were on the thing, it almost felt like it was, a Link to the Past randomizer in a way, in terms of the giant chain that you had at the very end, in there to make progression to the end of the game.
This is
It's
like
nuts.
a Link to the Past randomizer if it's like a 5 chain that starts with the item in the depths of Turtle Rock.
Exactly.
Well, level 8 is technically Turtle Rock and Link to the Past, so yeah, sure, we'll go with that.
Go with it. I like that.
How is level 8's like Ganon's Tower?
I was more thinking along the lines of last dungeon before the final dungeon.
Yeah, we
Level
have a
8
different
Link's
number of
Awakening.
dungeons. We kind of have to twist things a little.
This is me, I'll logic blast anything.
Logic? What's logic?
It's that thing that your randomizer has so it doesn't poop out seeds that are unwinnable.
Oh, right. Yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah, it only poops out seeds that are marginally winnable.
Depending on how many rupees you have, right?
Hey, at least there was no Gomas this time.
Oh no, there's a Goma. It's an 8. When you are looking for that item you know is required and you go down instead of left and you get shuttered in and you have to up A and then fight that room a pulse spiral staircase for like the 5th time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at least it was
Sounds like
0
you had a
HP.
very similar 8.
Yeah, the 8s were extremely similar in level of troll.
Oh, yeah.
I knew you were commentating this, TG. I figured this seed was just thrilling you.
I jumped in at like the 15-minute mark. We're having technical difficulties, so I was just sitting back, relaxing and watching and enjoying this, and then I get to come in and deal with all of this.
I mean, the seed didn't really become great for you until it became clear just how dumb the seed was at like 45 minutes in.
Yeah, I started enjoying the seed right around the time that Fred found the magical boomerang, and you can kid you not, I legitimately called this. I'm like, ladder's going to be an 8, which leads to the raft in 6, which leads to the recorder on the raft, which leads to the bow under a recorder spot. Legitimately called that during the commentary.
And the bow was completely useless, as it turned out.
Yeah, I grabbed it to be safe. I mean, you did a very quick clear, it sounds like, of 8. I hit about 40 rooms of 9. Sorry, not 8, 9. I hit about 40-something rooms in 9, because I just took that 1 or 2 wrong turns. I think I went up first originally, and then was like, oh, wait, silvers might be needed, and I started taking staircases, even though I happened to be, at the time, about 2 rooms away from Zelda. And, well, it led to a significantly more filled-out version of level 9.
See, there was a little metagaming too, though. Who knows if my 9 would have been the same if you hadn't finished, because I looked at your time like an hour or two. I'm like, okay, he didn't find ladder right away, because if he found ladder right away, it's like a 40-minute seed. Like, there's no way Fred would take more than an hour if he found that ladder when he was supposed to. But on the other hand, that time is still faster than me by a considerable margin. I haven't even stepped foot in 9. I know Fred's 9 exploration pattern. It's go up, even better with Zelda in her room, probably. I'm just going to mirror it, and I'm probably going to run right into her.
Well, you ended up right, just I apparently deviated from my pattern enough to make it, at least it made it interesting, right?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, if you were curious, after you were done, I had 12 hearts, so I went and checked Magical Sword. Nope, couldn't pick it up at 12.
Oh, they were shuffled. Lovely. Wow. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of subtleties. Like, not only did I have the data points about Red Candle and Magic Key, the next 3 items I found were the Overworld. The Power Bracelet that opened 6 spots that contained 0 dungeons. The Ladder Heart, and the White Sword, all not shuffled.
Yeah, I was working under the assumption when I found Power Bracelet, okay, I haven't seen any roads up to this point. It's just going to be the 4 of those push blocks, and then I walk into the coast shop. Oh. And then they turned out to be very crummy any roads, mostly. I was able to use 1 or 2 of them occasionally, but for the most part, they ended up being garbage.
I think I used them once. They were pretty lousy any roads. They were all confined to the east. And this seed, if one of them had led up to Death Mountain, that would have saved an enormous amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But with that, does anybody else have anything else they would like to get off their chest before we turn this thing around and give control of the channel back to its owner?
Nothing here. I mean, great race there, AA. I'm glad that it turned out that way, and best of luck to you in the giant cesspool of the 1-in-1 madness that's coming forth.
Yeah.
It's a good way of putting it.
Hey, I'm in that pool. Watch it.
I mean,
Hence why I chose the word.
Thanks, Fred.
Love you too.
Congrats on being 2-0, Fred. Yeah. I mean, whatever happens, happens. It's random for Sit.
That it is.
That it is indeed. Genos, anything else?
No, that's pretty much it for me. I was just letting everybody get what they're talking about out. I think we're done for the rest of the day until one more race later on this evening at 10 p.m. between Johan Howitzer and the Seawolf. That will be a fantastic match as well. Those two are very evenly matched. It'll be right here on the JamEvil or the Ocho with Isolated 999 and LZ Card Fans 23 on the commentary. So be sure to catch that, and until then, have a great day.
Bye, everybody. And remember, whatever it is you're currently doing, it's always right to blame me.